Okay, let's try again. I'm trying to re-record a video that got screwed up that I tried to create during the class session. And I've actually already done the lists and the formatting, and so I'm just going to do the links here. So we're going to talk about uh, URLs and hyperlinks. So URLs have these parts: the protocol, the host name, the file path, and a target. And not all of these are required. The protocol can be HTTP colon double backslash, which is a regular web. It can be the HTTPS colon double backslash, which is the secure version of HTTP. And then it can be several other older or different types of protocols. This one, file transfer protocol, you probably won't use. Mail-to is a special protocol that lets you create a hyperlink that will open the mailer and allow the user to send a mail message from within a web page. So the protocol again is the type of communication protocol. The host name is the name of the server that the document is on. So a synonym for server is a host. So the host name is really a server name. The file path is the local path on that server, and the last part of this will be the actual file name of the document. Finally, we can even have a target, which is going to be to a location within the document. If we have that, what will happen is when the user clicks on the link, which contains this URL, the web browser will not only open that document after it downloads, excuse me, but go ahead and scroll the page to that location. So as I mentioned, not all the parts of the URL are required, and we can make a distinction between absolute and relative URLs. Absolute URLs have all the information: the protocol, the server or host, the file path. Maybe they have the target too. A relative URL doesn't have all this information, and it's going to be dependent on the location of the document that it's located in, because it's going to use the local file path. And the key to these relative URLs is these meta characters. So we have the double dot, which means go up to the parent directory. They have the slash meta character, which indicates the root and is also the separator between directories. And you should be familiar with this from the file system. So really what's going on is we're talking about the file system, the part of the file system that contains the web documents on the web server. Okay? So in fact, a relative URL could consist of just the name of a file if the file which contains that URL is linking to another file that's in the same directory. Here's a little table, these meta characters. Again, this is the one you're going to use the most. You might once in a while use the root. Hardly ever going to use this in web. That's something from Unix. That stands for the current working directory. And occasionally with file permissions, you have to use that to run a file. That's hardly ever going to be an issue in web development, though. All right, let's just look at a few examples. Here we have an absolute URL. We have the protocol. This is the server or host name. And then we have a file in the root directory there called index.html. Here's one of the mail-tos. So we have the mail-to protocol, and then we just have an email address. So those work a little differently. They don't have all the same parts that a regular URL does. Here's a file transfer protocol, and again, all three of these are absolute ones. So here's the host name, it has the server. Again, this works a little differently too, because this is an interactive process. So if I clicked on this link, it would take me to the file server, the file transfer protocol server, and then most likely it would prompt me to log in. And then once I logged in, I can type commands like get and put to place or retrieve files from the server. This is kind of a spurious example because, again, we don't usually use the single dot, but that means in the current directory, there's a directory below me called Photos, and there's a directory below that called Camera, and within Camera, there's a file called myphoto.html. Oops, sorry about that. This is a good one here. So this basically, I'm in some directory which is parallel to Scanner, which has a common parent. So this says go up from the directory I'm in to the parent, then back down to the parallel directory Scanner, and there you'll find myscan.html. So the last two are really relative, and the first three are absolute here. Excuse me. Seems like the wasabi is burning my throat today. I had really good sushi for lunch. So, okay. So for external links, we always use absolute URLs. External means that's a link that goes off of our site to another one. So for instance, if I'm going to have a link to YouTube, that's an external link. I would have http www.youtube.com, etc., etc. Okay. Now, all of the pages within your web documents and your site itself should use for internal links, should use relative URLs. The reason for that is you can kind of think of the entire website as a single folder, possibly with subfolders. And then if we use this relative linking technique, we can move the site as a whole and easily repurpose it or relocate it on a different server. So it's really important to try to do that. So we don't use absolute file paths. You never use local file references. So I'm never going to have a URL in a website that says C:, my documents, etc., etc. Okay, that's not going to work. All right. One additional part of the URL, it doesn't really come up too often, it's called a port number. So if it has the port number will be immediately after the server name separated by a colon. And 80 is actually the default port for HTTP, so you hardly ever see that. Occasionally we'll have special server-side web technologies, which are programs that provide web services and other kinds of things. And the convention is those to have a port number which is 8,000 or above. So some of the port numbers, especially the very low level ones, are reserved for specific kinds of communication. So for instance, FTP has its own port number, SSH has its own port number, and communication using those protocols should use that port. Okay, so here's how we put this into the HTML. We're going to use an element called A, which stands for anchor. And the important property of the anchor is the href, which stands for hyperreference. So the hyperreference is going to have the URL. That's why I just explained what URLs are. And then between the head and the closing tag of the anchor is what's called the display text. And this will be the text that the user will see, typically as underlined text, that they can click on. So that's how they know that that's a hyperlink. Okay. Now that's the default style for the browser, and in a minute you're going to see that we have total control over that. We can style that any which way we like. Okay. All right. So here's an example. So this is going to create a hyperlink that's going to have display text, Tom Wolf's UC webpage. This is an absolute link, so this would work anywhere in any page. And in fact, this is the style for the UC file space home pages. So this little tilde in Wolf T is my account name, and that gets mapped magically by the server to my index.html document, which is the root of my website. Here's another one with a relative. So this says go up to the parent directory, down into a parallel directory called scanner, and then within scanner you'll find a file called myscan.html. And again, the display text here is my scan page, and the user will see that as a clickable link. To create those targeting links that I mentioned, you use the A, but you don't use the hyperref. So this has to have an ID, and we know already that IDs have to be unique to the page. So within the page, I can only use a given ID one time. You can put content in here. It's not necessary though. It's important to understand that this does not show to the user. It doesn't create anything visible in the web page. It creates a sort of invisible target that you can refer to using that target name syntax with the pound sign that we saw. So what we're looking at here is kind of similar to what you have when you're on a site where you have a little link that says go to the top of the page. So this link is going to not open a new page, but basically scroll this current page up so that this part is at the top in the browser window. Okay, so that's how we do those go to the top of the page style links. Here's an external one. So this one basically has an entire file path, entire URL. So it's in an external file, and it's specifically targeting not just this file, but this location within the file. Okay. You might wonder why we have that. There's a couple of reasons. One is when you have a very long page, and usually it's not a good idea to have really long pages, but think about something like a dictionary or an index. So basically I'm going to have a target for each entry, and then I can have hyperlinks that go directly to the entry. But the user can still browse the index or the dictionary manually once they're there. So that kind of makes sense to do it that way. Okay, I think this is the last thing. Occasionally we want to open a link in a new window or a new tab. And the way we do that is we add another attribute here to the anchor link, anchor element called target, and we set that to be _blank. And so what will happen then is that our page will remain open in the web tab, and the browser will open an additional tab to display whatever this was. Okay, so sometimes you like to do that. You want people to be able to look at stuff and then close it, and your page is still open. All right, here's the mail to link. Again, note that the mail to is the only protocol without the double slashes. So what this will do is it'll create a visible link, mail Tom, and that'll be underlined or styled according to whatever style rules I've written or the default ones in the browser. The user will know that's a clickable link. When they click on it, it will open their local mailer, and it'll create a new message addressed to me at this address, and then the user can continue to complete the message and then send it. This is not an active address, by the way. That's a really old address that I once had. Okay. Similarly, here's a hyperlink for an FTP site. So they would just click on FTP stuff, which is the visible part of the link, the display text. And then it would take them to the site, and then the site would prompt them to log in, and they could use the get and put commands to retrieve or put files on the FTP server. So we're going to talk about styling links, and in a minute I'm going to get into Dreamweaver and show you some more of this. And one thing that we often encounter is that links are inline elements. So if I have a series of links, by default they'll appear on the same line one after another. And I can change that by modifying the display attribute, and instead of creating it inline, which is the default for a link, I'll make it block. Now this rule is written in such a way that this would change every link to block, and most of the time I'm not going to want to do that. For instance, I want the links at the top of my page in the navigation bar to be on the same line. So I'd probably constrain this somehow by having this something over here and saying that I want to only style the anchor links that are within this. And later on, I'll show you how we do that. I actually have a video already that shows this in the sequence for creating the web pages for the course assignments. Okay. I remember I told you the web had, this browser had that default style where it underlines that, links and that. You can override all that. So these are called pseudo classes, and you know that we can create classes by using the dot. So I can have A external, A internal, etc. This is part of the CSS. This is called a pseudo class. And so basically what this does is it allows me to write style rules that apply for a link in its given states. So the first state, link, is like a new link or a link that I haven't visited in such a long time that the browser's cache no longer considers that visited. So that's entirely dependent on the browser cache. A visited link is a link that I have visited within the memory of the browser cache, okay? And what's interesting about this is this doesn't work across browsers. So for instance, if I visit this link in Firefox, it'll appear visited, but then if I open Chrome and look at the same thing, it won't, because it's specific to each browser. This active one is almost useless. Basically, this is a style that applies to the link right as you click it while the page is downloading. And usually what happens is the page downloads quick enough that you don't even see that. It's replaced by the new page. So I almost never bother to write these. Now, this hover is really nice. This is when the user takes the mouse and brings it over the link. And so this is a set of rules that only applies, style that is, that only applies when the user hovers over the link. Here's some ideas about how we can use some links. So I can create a radically different style for the links that are new as opposed to the links that are visited. So here you can see that I've set the font size to 130% of the norm, which means they're 30% larger. And then I've set the color to white and on black background. Now this is really garish. And this example is kind of contrived. It's really just designed to give you an idea of how you could create a sort of visual cue for your users and class the links, okay? And then similar here in the visited one, you can see that I've made it italic. This is not italic. And because I don't have the font size in there, this is going to be the regular size, so it'll be 30% smaller. And that'll be red on a white background. So again, radically different and rather garish colors. So don't actually use this. It's just a pedagogical example. Okay? We could take this further and use our pseudo classes and also create class selectors. So I could actually have a series of external class links and then go through each of these. So I'd have a link in my page that I would classify as being external by including the class equals external in the HTML text. And then I could have A external colon link, A external colon visited, A external colon hover. And then similarly, I could do a different one for internal. So then I could basically create 4 sub-rules for each class of link. And then create this sort of visual style for the user that would indicate if a link was external or internal to my site or whatever I wanted actually. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at Dreamweaver here. And let's see, cancel. Let's close that. And where's my Dreamweaver? All right, so it seems like when I closed PowerPoint, it closed the video, and I just restarted it. I'm in Dreamweaver now. Let me check the font size real quickly here. So let's see, edit, preferences, and 22, that's probably all right. I guess since I'm here though, I'll change it and make it 24. I usually do this just for the recording of the videos, so there's no reason to make the font this big. It just seems like it records better on the videos when I do. Okay, we have a simple HTML5 page. This is actually my student web page template. So it has the section style. So I have a header, a main, and a footer. And I've already got it linked to my style sheet. There's not really much yet there, just the background color for the page. And if I go to design view, oh, the background color is not working. That's interesting. Let's see. Well, let's go ahead and take a look here and see if it's screwed up in Firefox. There we go. So I don't know why. Sometimes the Dreamweaver preview doesn't work real well. We don't bother with it. I like to use the external browser. I actually like to bump back and forth between the different options. So I'll go back between Firefox, Chrome, and God forbid, Internet Explorer. Despite me making fun of it, the fact of the matter is there's a hell of a lot of people that use Internet Explorer, and so you want to make sure that your pages work on all the major browsers. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some links in here, and these are going to be navigation links, and so I'm going to want these to be one per line. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll create a few links, but I'm not going to have all those pages. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put the links like this so that they read a little bit better. So we're going to have A, and then we'll have our href, which is the hyperreference. And now these are for my student web page, and I'm kind of assuming that they're all in the same folder. So I'm going to actually create links to pages that don't exist yet, okay? And the first one here is going to be my home page, which is index.html. And the display text for that will be home. And then I'll let Dreamweaver finish that off. And then to save time, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. And I'll use Control-C for that and paste it in several times. And then just write over these, okay? So the next page of my site is going to be my favorite links. So I'm going to call this links, and then this will be fave links. And let's see, what else do we have here? The list of my courses. Oops, yeah, okay, so courses, and then what else do we have? Definitions. This is all stuff from the assignment, although I'm not trying to religiously follow the assignment directions. I've done that elsewhere. Here I really just want to go over the stuff that I just covered for the HTML syntax, okay? So you need to follow the directions for the assignment, and they're elsewhere. Don't say, oh, Tom, you did it like this in the video, and that's what I thought I had to do, because that won't fly. All right. So we got a, oops. I'll put a story in here, and this is going to be called story. Actually, I forgot. I've got a poem in here. Okay. All right. Okay, so check this out. I haven't created these files yet. Okay, so eventually I will. The reason I'm doing this is I'm going to go ahead and copy this to make the files, and I want them all to have a common navigational pane here. So I have index.html, which is this file. We'll save that right now, by the way. File, save as. index.html. And I'm going to close my template now because I don't need it. Really, I could have saved this in the template, actually. Let me do that because I've got this common stuff that's going to go in every one of the files I use with the template. I should have done that way. So let me just do that real quick. So save as, and I'll just save it over that. It should prompt me. Yes, that's fine. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and close the section template. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what this looks like. Of course, all the links are going to be broken, and so we won't be able to actually use them. But we can see how it'll style, and that's what we're going to do next, is add the styling. So here are the links: home, poem, fave, links, courses, definitions, and story. And notice without any style at all, you can already see that the home page has been visited. So that's the default style that in this case Firefox uses. It also puts the underline there that tells me that those are links. Okay? I got to remember to close this between invocations there. All right, let's go to our main style sheet here. And I don't really have anything in here yet, so let me just throw some margins on the page to make it look a little bit better. I'll put those on the body. So margin, and let's just say 5%. That'll put a 5% margin on the top, bottom, right, and left. I usually don't do that. I usually put a smaller margin at the top and the bottom. That's okay. All right. And what else do I want here? I want to go ahead and set my font. So font family, and I'm going to use the kind of Comic Sans that I like, which is sort of like a kid's type thing. So it's not really a serious font. All right, let's save that and take a look at what we have now. And we'll see if the design view is going to work. Nope. No, it's just not working for some reason. That's really odd because it usually will show you that much. Anyhow, I'll go ahead and pop back into Firefox. And you can see I've got my margins now. and it did apply the font as well. Okay. I'm just going to expand this a little bit so it'll look better on the video here. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and minimize this. And so now let's go back in. And so I'm going to start writing some rules for my hyperlinks. All right. And okay, let's just get started here. Okay, so a colon link. And that's going to be, let's see, let me think. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write these rules so they apply to the links within the nav bar. So a colon link applies to all the hyperlinks, and it's going to apply style to the links that are new. And really what I want to do is I want to focus on writing the ones that are going to be within the nav bar. So I'll do that. So this says that this is a nav link, okay? So, and in fact, we can actually get some common rules in here first. So right off, I'm going to say that within the nav link, the display should be in line. Now that's a redundant rule because that's the default. But if I write a rule that makes the links be blocked like I want to do for when they're in the page, this will protect that from happening. So I want that to work for any link that's in the nav bar regardless of its state. Okay, so now we're going to do nav a colon link. Okay, so what does this mean? This means a block of rules that apply to a new or unvisited link when it's in the nav bar. Okay. And so then you can see that what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue down and add the other ones in. So this would be visited, and then the next one is going to be hover, well, active actually. Although again, like I said, the active is kind of lame because you don't see it very much. In fact, for a nav bar, you wouldn't see it at all because that's basically opening a page in your site. I'm not going to bother with that. I hardly ever do. So let's just not do that, because it's hard enough to find separate rules that make sense here. Okay, so I'm going to think about this a little bit. Let's go ahead and move this just up so we can kind of see that there's slightly difference in the meaning there. So, okay, so this is a link that's not been visited, and I've got a yellow background on my page. So maybe I'll make the color on these red. I suck at colors, by the way, so I don't have any background in visual design, and I always like to mention that. The kind of design I do is called functional design, which is more like engineering design. So I focus on the purpose of the page, who's going to use it, functionality so it'll work on multiple formats. That's what I always concern myself with, okay? All right, so I've made my unvisited links red, and let me just go ahead and start to copy some stuff here, because what I'll do is, instead of doing one link at a time, I'll go ahead and add each thing so that they kind of match, okay? So, whoops, what happened here? Okay, got the markup kind of screwed up. Okay, so if the link is red, it's not been accessed, and this has to work on a yellow page. Let's go with black here for visited links, and then I want to also make the unvisited links, let's see. Nah, I was thinking about making these like bigger and smaller. That's probably a little too much to do, but it is okay to do that on the hover, okay? So if I don't change the color of the hover, it'll still reflect if it's visited or not, but when the user brings the mouse over it, it'll be bigger. So let's do this, font dash, I think that's size. And I'm going to do this as, I think 125%. So that means basically make the font size 25% of whatever the normal size is. Okay? All right. And let's see. It looks like all our rules are cool so far. Okay, let's save this. And we'll go back to our index page and look at it in the browser again. Okay, here we go. So notice that the hover is making the link a little bigger, and there are some ramifications to that. So the whole thing kind of jerks, the page jerks when you do that. Okay, now the home page is visited, so that's the visited color, and yeah, that's black. Tom's colorblind, by the way. I might want to set my page links to be, let's try making them bold. Let's see what happens when we do that. So now if I want to bold all the time, oops, sorry, I've got to be in the style sheet. If I want to bold all the time, I would do that here. But if I only want to bold when they haven't been visited, I'll do that here, okay? So this is going to be font weight, colon, and then bold, okay? So that's going to set that to bold. And let's see, visited. Okay, I kind of like the way this is working with the 25%. Let's try it again. So again, you have to be in the HTML to run the previewer. Okay, so that's working the same way. And now you can see, so notice this, the home page, which is visited, seems to be, okay, so I guess it wasn't visited. Now it is. So now you can see the difference. The type is slightly thinner, and you can't really tell that the bolding because when I go to larger font, it kind of loses that. But it does look fine here. So this is clearly a darker link that I've already visited. We can do one more thing. Again, this might be kind of garish. I'm not sure this is a great visual design idea. But I could also make the visited links be in italics. And so to do that, we do font style and then italic. Whoops. Thought I got that from the IntelliSense, but there we go. All right, one more try. Let's test it one more time. And preview in Firefox. Okay. And then if I visited home, didn't get the, I'm not really seeing the italics. Let's see if I did that right. I might have the, let's see, is it italic or italics? I think that's right, actually. Let me put that back in. Okay. All right, so I was kind of under the impression that my home link had been visited. Let's go ahead one more time. Oops. See, I have to be in the index. Let's do this to save all. Okay, so I'm on the index, launch again at Firefox. Let's refresh the page just in case. All right, home is visited. No, it's just not working for some reason. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. Because it's definitely showing the black color. I wonder if I left the semicolon out in the style sheet. Let's see. I don't think so. Yeah, see, color black, font style italic. Yeah, that's weird. Right off, I'm not seeing what's wrong with that. That's okay. I'm going to move on here. So basically, I've just written these for the navigation. So the only rule, none of these rules will apply to links that aren't in the navigation part of the page. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and use the save as to just save this as a new page. And I'm going to create one of those pages there. And the one that I'm going to create is the links page because it has hyperlinks in it. So links, and God, that's small. I can't see. Oh, looks like I've got all kinds of crap there. Let me just retype the whole thing. Links.html. All right. So this is the links. Let's real quickly just change this. Oops. So that when we open it, we'll be able to tell that we're on the links page. Although quickly, I'll have some content in there. Okay. All right. And then here in the main page, I'm going to have some links. And again, I'm going to add rules to make these be one per line. But right now, they'll all be one per line. So let's do a link to YouTube. And so href equals and http://www.youtube.com and then YouTube. And again, if I want this to open in a separate browser tab, I'll go ahead and add target equals underscore blank, which should be right there on my list. There we go. Okay, so there's the first link. And now you can see that these are going to be real similar, so I'm just going to copy a few. And what else do I like? Facebook would be good. Facebook. And then, of course, it's going to be facebook.com. All right. All right, that's enough to take a quick look. Now, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to my index page, launch Firefox again, and now I'm going to click on my links page. Whoops. Let's see what's going down here. Working HTML5 part 2, links HTML. It might not like that because I'm working on Google Drive here, so I think it thinks that I'm actually on a website. Let me just check and make sure that I've got everything in the same directory and I didn't accidentally open so let's see here. Trying to find my working directory. Here we go, HTML5 working, part 2. Oh, I misspelled it, see? Oops, can't do that here. Okay, hang on. So I misspelled the file, and I want to rename this. So let's see if it'll let me do that here. All right, I'm going to close it, go on back to my file window, and change it there. I probably could do this within Dreamweaver, but I don't remember exactly how, and I don't want to waste time on the vid. So there we go. So I just saved the file, and let me just leave this open in case I need it again. And let's go back and preview the page here real quick. I'll have to open the file up again when I'm ready to continue editing it. All right, I'm going to reload here just to be on the safe side. Click on links, and there's the link. So you can see the YouTube and Facebook, and they're on the same line. So I want to change that, okay? So that's what we're going to do next in our file. And I might add 2 or 3 more links too to make it look good. Okay, so let me reopen the links. File, open. Oh, excellent. It looks like it opened the right directory, so I didn't have to flail around and find it. So one thing I wanted to mention is the reason I saved the file like that is so because this is the same in all these files. And we should also fix what's called the self-referential link. So here in the index.html, this link is to itself. And so we want to replace that with just a pound sign. And that'll help the browser know not to reload the page. If you think about it, if you're already looking at the page, you don't want to reload it, right? Okay, we'll try that in a moment. Let's go back to the links and add a few more links here. So let me just go ahead and copy that last one, paste it in. We'll put 2 more in here real quick. Let's see. I kind of like Google, so we'll do Google. Oops. And what else? I guess we got to have the UC homepage, right? So www.uc.edu and UC homepage. There we go. So now I have 4 links in here. And real quickly, we'll just go back. And actually, I can just view this page directly in Firefox too. And now my link should go back to my home page. So there's the home page. Again, you can see how this works. I go back to links. And then there's the YouTube, the Facebook, the Google, and the UC homepage. We didn't actually try these, so let's try YouTube. So you can see that it opened an additional tab, okay? Similarly, if I do Facebook, it opened an additional tab. Okay, so now what I want to do is I wanted to take those links that aren't in my nav bar and make them have a display of blocks, so there'll be one per line. And I'm going to show you another way of doing this. So here in my links HTML page, in the main, I'm going to give it an ID. So ID equals links. Okay? Oops. And now in the CSS file, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say pound links, which is an ID selector. So this applies just to that main. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and create an empty one. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a series of links like I have at the nav bar. And to save some time, I'm going to go ahead and copy those and just replace this. So this is going to be pound links. And we should probably talk about what the difference here is between what I copied and what I typed over. So let me finish this and then I'll explain. Let's get that last one there. Okay. So basically this says when you have an A link within the nav, do this. Display it this way. Apply this style to it. And then these are just the pseudo styles. So this is an unvisited link in the nav. This is a visited link in the nav. This is a hover over a link in the nav. Pound links is an ID. It happens to refer to a section called main, but that's only going to be in one page in my entire site, most likely. This is going to be in every page of my site. I'll have a nav bar in every one. So this is an element selector. And then the whole thing is a descendant selector. So the rule applies to the descendant A when it's within the nav, and that's called a descendant selector. But really the first part is a regular nav. This is also a descendant selector. It's a rule that applies to A when it's within something, but this is an ID, okay, so it's more specific. All right. So right off, we're going to change this to block. And if you think about it, right now our links are kind of similar to one another, the way they look. So let's not do anything more. Let's take a look and see how this works. And let's see. I'm going to fiddle with this directly, but I'm going to move it down to the bottom. That should be okay with an empty block. I'm not sure if that's going to generate an error or not. Let me just take that out for a minute. All right, save the file. Let's go back to our links and launch it again in Firefox. And now you can see that those links are all one per line because now they're block elements. And the other rules apply to the nav links. Okay. Now you see how I've got this all jammed up together. I'm going to put some space in, and there's kind of an elegant way to do that. Okay. So let's go back to the CSS. And so if I put margins and paddings on that links area, that'll put some space on things. In particular, the margin will put space at the top, bottom, and sides, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So margin, and I'm going to actually use a separate one this time. So margin top, and then let's make this like 5EM, and which is a character unit, so like 5 characters, okay? And then margin right is, let's say 3EM. I might come back and change this, right? So that's one of the reasons that I'm putting them in separately so I can fine tune the way it looks. If I just said margin, they'd all be the same. So I'm separating them out and doing the individual ones. Okay. Now we do need some margin at the bottom, and maybe I want less than, oops, got to keep moving that down too, right? That's the end of the margin style block. Bottom. And let's make this 3 EM. Okay, and then I like to move this over just for ease of readability. All right, let's save that, and we'll pop back to links, and we'll pop back into Firefox. And so you can see there's the 5 EM space, and here's the 3 EM. So that's quite a bit of space, so I'll change it back to 3. So I'll make that 3 in both cases. Maybe I might decide that I don't even need to have that much at the bottom. So perhaps, especially if I'm going to add more links in. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll come on in here, and we'll set this one to 1 EM, and this one to 3. And that looks pretty good. Okay. All right. One more time. Let's take a quick look. And I'm doing my index now, so let's launch the index. Oops, so we want to save it. Okay, so here's my index page, and fave links. I go to fave links, Tom Wolf's links. There's my, and by the way, I just manually made it bigger so it would look better. So that's why it was bigger on the first screen, because the browser remembered I did that. Okay, here we go. Now, we might want to change the color sequence here. So these work pretty much the same. So basically, these tell me if a link is visited or not, but maybe that doesn't matter as much here. So maybe I want to have a different color scheme on these, okay? So I can work on that. Anyway, I think that's probably enough for this video. I've shown you how to style the links. We did a little bit more extra stuff, and I showed you how to get the links to show up in a new tab, so a different tab. Okay, I hope you're enjoying the course and getting into this, and this should replace the video that got screwed up.